We are Group 6 and now we are going to talk about skill communication.
Wow. Our presentation is divided into 4 parts. The first one, extended communication. Second one, communication is multimodal. Thirdly, communication requires supporting evidence. And finally, skill communication must be.
In the 21st century, developing technologies have created new opportunities for communication that is spoken, written, visual, and multimodal. Therefore, skill communication is crucial to us, especially in education. In this rubric, we don't focus on informal classroom talk. Instead, we focus on activities that require students to express their ideas in a permanent form, such as a presentation, a podcast, a written document, and an email.
Extended communication is required when students must produce communication that represents a set of connected ideas, not a single simple thought. For example, in written work, extended communication is a complete paragraph rather than a sentence or phrase. In electronic or visual media, extended communication might take the form of a sequence of video, a or a piece of presentation. So, here are the questions. Does this learning activity require extended communication? The first one, student list out some solution to the deforestation in Pulip Point. And B, students are required to write an essay to demonstrate the solution to the deforestation problem. So, the answer is B. Extended communication is equivalent to a paragraph. Therefore, students in the first case do not produce.
The next question is A. In an online lesson about the internet power, students have to submit a reflection about effects of the internet on education. B. In an online lesson about the internet power, students are required to leave one or more comments about the effects of the internet on education in form of bullet points. A is the correct answer because in situation A, students have to write a reflection which must include a complete paragraphs. So extended communication is required. The last question is A. Students create a group on Facebook and then discuss to create a plan for a micro teaching on class. B. Students create a group on Facebook and then discuss what they have learned at school. And the answer is A. There are both discussion in two cases. However, extended communication only appears when students are asked to produce something. So, the first case is right.
Communications is multimodal when it includes more than one type of communication mode or tone used to communicate a coherent message, and when the elements work together to produce a stronger message than any one element alone, or when the learning activity offers students the opportunity to choose the tone or tones they will use to communicate. Here are the questions. Is this communications multimodal? A. In intercultural communication, students create presentation about culture shock, including video, text, and photograph. B. In intercultural communication, students create presentation about culture shock using only text. The answer is A, because the learning activity requires multiple modes of media that work together for a more detailed analysis of the topic, while in situation B, the learning activity requires only one mode of media.
Communication requires supporting evidence. Firstly, when students must explain their idea or support their theory with fact or example. Second, when students must describe their reasoning or provide supporting facts or example. The evidence here should be sufficient to support the claim that student is making. It's time to practice. The question is, does the activity require supportive evidence? A. Student must write an essay about ICT in education. B. Student must write an essay why ICT in education should be focused. So the answer is B. Because activity B asks students to state and defend a claim about ICT, while in situation A, students can do this activity with facts and don't have to state or support a claim theory.
Students are required to design their communication for a particular audience. It's not sufficient for students to be communicating to a general audience on the internet. So students must have in mind a specific group with specific needs to shape their communication appropriately. In addition, students must select the tunes, content, or style that they use to reach the audience when communicating with a particular audience. Considering what tunes the audience have access to on a regular basis, the relevant information they must present for audience to understand their own audience. The formality or informality of the language they choose to be appropriate to the audience. To qualify for this idea, the learning activity might specify a particular audience or student can select their own audience. The requirement is that the student must develop their communication with that audience in mind.
So here's the questions. A. In Fundamentals of Teaching English to Young Learners, student E5 are required to design a 45-minute lesson. For any grade, they want to design using visual aids or videos. After designing process, they send their product, both hard file and soft file, to their teacher for grading. B. In Fundamentals of Teaching English to Young Learners, student E5 are required to design a 45-minute lesson. For grade 3, using visual aids and videos. After designing process, they practice doing micro-teaching before class. Okay, so B is the correct answer because students in case B must design a lesson for students of grade 3, while in case A, there's no specified audience.
In conclusion, this rubric examines whether students are asked to produce extended or multimodal communication and whether the communication must be verified with a logical explanation or examples or evidence that supports a central thesis. At higher levels of this rubric, students must craft their communication for a particular audience.